StrayAllDay.com.
Now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative, which is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called Work on Your Game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is how to solve unsolvable problems. Yes, that's a paradox for you there. Before we get into this, let me remind everybody, I send out a text message every morning, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point. Also send out one every Monday, guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point for the week, every morning for the day. It is called the Daily Motivation. The other one's called the Monday Motivation. I guarantee you that these messages will do exactly what I just said, have you focused, sharp, and on point to start your day, week, whatever it's going to be. All you got to do to get these text messages is join my text community at 305 by texting me at 305-384-6894. Once you text me, we'll tell you what your options are. It's completely free to join my text community. We'll tell you what your options are right there. I do actually read and respond to my messages, so if you want a way to engage with me directly, you can comment on my social media. I will see that. You can send me an email. I'll see those as well. And you can text me. I just gave you the number. That number's down below in the description. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. That is the place where I do all my coaching. If you would like to work with me directly, if you would like to be coached by me, if you want to know what it's like to have a coach who actually knows what they are talking about and can look at your situation and tell you, here are the pros and the cons. Here is what you're missing. Here's what you're not seeing. Here's a question that you have not asked that you may not even be able to answer, but I'll help you answer. But first, we got to address the question. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. We focus on 4 specific areas: mindset, strategy, systems, and accountability. Mindset is the way you think, the way you are being. This is the biggest challenge that most people have in business. It is not what you are doing. It is not your resources. It's not a lack of information. It is your mindset around what you're doing. Number 2 is the strategy and the game plan. What exactly are you doing? How are you doing it? Why, when, and where are you doing it? Number 3 is the systems. What is the mechanism that can allow you to do the same things the same way every time to produce consistent results? And number 4, the accountability. How do you make sure that your processes are working the way they're supposed to? How do you make sure that the people, that's you, are doing what they're supposed to be doing on a consistent basis and living up to the promise that you have set for yourself? Those 4 areas. That's what we do in Work on Your Game University. So if you want to know what we do, I just told you, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. You can schedule a time to get on a call with me or somebody on my team. You can join one of our mastermind group programs. You can work with me directly. Those are your options. Again, workonyourgameuniversity.com. Link down below in the description. Now let's get into this topic, which is how to solve unsolvable problems. So how can we solve a problem that's unsolvable? Well, I'm going to tell you here today. Now, we just talked a few days ago about the concept of solving problems in general. That was just 3 days ago, how to solve problems. Okay, today we're going to talk about how you solve problems that appear to be unsolvable. Ones that you're just throwing your hands up like, okay, I guess there's nothing I can do about this. Any of you has an unsolvable problem, by the way, you should already be at workonyourgameuniversity.com to schedule a time to get on a call with someone on our team so that we can address that. And you probably have more than one unsolvable problem. And you should not be playing around with just listening to a masterclass or a podcast or watching a YouTube video, because we know there are levels to this shit, right? So why don't you go to workonyourgameuniversity.com while you listen to this. And I will tell you how I know what I'm doing, because I don't even know you, and I'm going to tell you how to solve unsolvable problems. Then when I get to know you and know exactly what your issue is, we're going to solve it that much better. But this is much more, let me be clear, solving unsolvable problems is much more of a mental approach than it is a tangible one. In other words, this is more about the way that you're looking at the situation than it is the actual resources that you have for dealing with the situation. And as I get into the points, you'll understand that very well. Point number 1. Topic, once again, is how to solve unsolvable problems. Point number 1, solving problems is not about what to do. Solving problems is not about what do you need to do. I know that's what you thought, but you thought wrong. Solving problems is about who you are. Solving problems is about who you are. It is not about what you are doing or what you need to do. When you get stuck on what to do, you are in step 2 of the creation process of life. The process of creation in life is be, do, have. 1, 2, 3. First step is being, second step is doing, third step is having. When you're focused on what do I need to do, and you believe you can't do things because you don't know what to do, that means you're in the creation step. You're in step number 2. Many people start and end on step number two, focusing on what do I need to do so I can have what I want to have. Many people short circuit this process. They never do step number one. They go straight to step number two. And when you skip steps, we already know you're already off the process. You are not being accountable to what the process is. The process is be, do, have, not do, have, do, have, do, have. No, it's be, do, have. Everybody understand me? So instead of trying to, when you try to solve an unsolvable problem, your focus shouldn't be on what do I need to do. Your focus needs to be on who are you being. In other words, let me be clear what I mean by that. How are you looking at the problem? Because listen, I have been coaching people for a long time. I coach a lot of different people in a lot of different positions. People who are in the medical space, people in the financial space, people who write books, people who are professional speakers, people who are entrepreneurs just starting, people who are seasoned entrepreneurs with brick and mortar businesses doing 6 and 7 figures per year. I work with a lot of different people, males, females, people who are my parents' age, people who are young enough to be my kids. I've worked with all of them. Okay. And let me tell you something. When someone comes to me with a problem that they think is unsolvable, it's not that I'm just some genius that comes up with some random thing that they should do that's going to solve the problem. Okay, so I'm not telling you that that's what I'm going to do. What I am going to tell you that I will do is I will help you look at the problem from a different angle that you otherwise had not considered, that gives you more opportunities to solve it because now you see it from a different angle. That's what a good coach can do. It's not that they pull a rabbit out of their hat. Is that, okay, here's a different way of looking at this. Instead of doing what you were thinking about doing, but you just told me you were going to do that, don't do that. Instead, do this. Instead, look at it this way. Now, if you looked at it from this angle, now what could you do? Okay, now you got 3 different options that you didn't have when you first got on this call. That's what we do. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? You need different angles and different ways of looking at your situation, not necessarily some magic bullet solution to your situation. Because if I had a bunch of magic bullet solutions to your situation, well, I would charge you a whole lot more money than I would charge you to join Work on Your Game University. If I could just solve your problems with a snap of a finger, that would cost you a lot. Okay, I'll charge you a little bit less to be in Work on Your Game University. All right, so the whole point here is when you're trying to solve an unsolvable problem, you need to look at the problem from a different angle. When you change the way you look at a problem, you will, in very short order, come up with new approaches and ideas for solving that problem. If your current frame of thinking is not helping you with specific solutions to a specific problem, is because of your way of thinking, not because you lack the resources to solve the problem. Let me repeat that sentence. If your current frame of thinking is not helping you with coming up with solutions to a problem that you have right now, it is not because you don't have the resources to solve the problem. It's because the way that you're looking at it is causing you to think, well, okay, these are the resources I would need if I looked at it this way. I don't have those resources, so I can't solve the problem. Well, the issue is not that you don't have the resources. The issue is you're looking at it from the wrong angle. If you look at it from a different angle, you realize that you have the resources to solve it that way. You just never looked at it that way. See, what are the things that I do? One of my superpowers is asking better questions. This is what we do. As a coach, one of my key skills is helping you replace your current questions with better questions. So some of your questions we're going to answer, some of your questions we're going to throw out and replace with better ones. So this is what a good coach does. Again, a good coach is not necessarily just going to come up with answers that you couldn't come up with to the same question that you got. That would just be a smartness competition. And that's not the business that I'm in. Even though I think I'm a pretty smart guy, that's not the business I'm in. The business that I'm in is an insight business. Insight is not about answers, it's about questions. And when you get different questions, you come up with completely different approaches. See, if all you needed was answers, well, you could go to ChatGPT and get answers. So ChatGPT and Google will give you answers all day, faster than I can. So if that's all you think you need, okay, go to ChatGPT. All right, you had ChatGPT for how long? Google been out your whole life. Okay, so what's stopping you? What's your excuse? See, the problem is you don't need answers. You need better questions. Everybody understand what I'm saying here? Your way of thinking is what needs to change, not the answers to the questions that you got. See, the questions that you have are symptoms of your way of thinking. We got to ask better questions. That's when things change. Is everybody following what I'm saying here? Let me take down a note there because I just said something that I'm going to make some future material out of. Sometimes I just say stuff that leads to another thing. Anyway, you'll read or hear about that sometime in the future. Here's what we're saying here. Still on point number one. When you change your perspective, the resources that you need change. In any circumstance in life, when you look at the situation from a different angle, all of a sudden you get new ideas. When you look at a situation from a different angle, all of a sudden you get new ideas. Challenge for many people is it is very difficult for them to change their mental perspective. And the longer you have had a certain perspective, the harder it is for you to change it. Challenge for many people, and when I say many people, that means you, is that it is very difficult for you to change your mental perspective. And the longer you've had the same perspective, the harder it is for you to change that perspective. Human beings are creatures of habits. It is hard to break habits. This is why you have to learn how to borrow the brains and the insights of other people. There are 8 billion people walking around the planet. Why would you limit yourself to the brains of one person? Especially when the brains of that one person has gotten you to this point that you got a problem that you can't solve. So clearly, depending on the brains of that one person, that would be you, ain't enough. That's insufficient. You need something else. Everybody follow what I'm saying here. Do not limit yourself to just the person in the mirror. 8 billion other ones out here. Now, that doesn't mean you should just get information from anybody. You need to get information from somebody who knows what they're talking about. And this is the reason why, one of the reasons why I do this show is to give you a sampling of me knowing what I'm talking about. All right? Is this making sense to you? Everything that I'm saying? If I said anything here that does not make sense to you. Moving on to point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is how to solve unsolvable problems. Number 2, assume the mindset and the energy of a person who could and would solve the problem. There's another being process point. Assume the mindset and energy of a person who could and would solve your problem. What's different between them and you? There are some things different because they could and would solve your problem and you can't solve it because you said it's unsolvable. So there has to be some differences. What is their mindset? What's their energy? This is something that I talk about in my book called Super You. I also talk about it in the Mirror of Motivation. I also talk about it in Work on Your Game. I also talk about it in the Mental Workbook. I talk about this so many times with so many different angles because it's a very important piece of changing who you are and manifesting the person whom you desire to become. You want to manifest the person you desire to become, it starts with the way that you think. It starts with your mindset. And when your mindset changes, then the actions can change. If the mindset doesn't change, the actions will not change. You cannot perform and behave in a way that is incongruent with the way that you see yourself over an extended period of time. It is scientifically impossible. It means you must change the way you see yourself before you can change your habits permanently. You can make a habit change in short term, but you're not going to stay doing things differently short term unless your mindset changes first. Again, be, do, have. 1, 2, 3. So you have to step into the energy and the being of the person who is at the level from which they can solve the current problem that you cannot solve. This is a process, but it's a very doable process when you know the strategy and the steps for executing it. I have a whole program in Work on Your Game University called Bulletproof Mindset 2.0 that will show you exactly how to execute on this process. My book, The Mental Workbook, is the best process for conditioning your mind for this and setting it in the way that you want to set it. Anytime you're facing a problem that you cannot seem to solve, you can get the mental workbook, by the way, by going to workonmygame.com/workbook. That's workonmygame.com/workbook. And Bulletproof Mindset is in the university, so go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Anytime you're facing a problem that you cannot seem to solve, the most important thing you need to do is not go try the same idea again for the 15th time. The most important thing you need to do is change your mindset about yourself and about the problem. Change the way you're looking at it. When you change those things, you will get some new ideas and some new ways to go about the issue. But you must change your way of thinking first, then everything else follows. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is how to solve unsolvable problems. Number 3, assuming that energy of the person who can and will solve your problem. Decide that you will solve the problem and you will address it right now. Decide that you will solve the problem and you will address it right now. Remember that decisions are always followed by actions. A true decision is always followed by an action. It's not a decision if you don't take action. It's a suggestion, a hope, a wish, a thought. If you think something but don't do anything. If it's a real decision, there's an action that immediately follows the thought. So remember that the word decide, or maybe many of you may not know this, but the word decide comes from the Latin word decidere, which means to cut off. That's what it means. Cutting things off. That's what decision is. You're cutting off every other option when you decide on something. So anything else that you could do or other ways that you could look at it, all of those are cut off and no longer being considered once you make a decision. You have made a choice, and that's what you're going with. Biggest challenge for many people when it comes to making decisions is the fact that they are cutting off all other options. This is actually the very reason why many people don't make decisions. Did you notice? Let me start the sentence over again. Number one reason why people don't make decisions is because a decision is a decision. It is a cutting off of every other option. This is the reason why people don't make decisions, because they don't want to cut off their options. People just like having options available, even though they're not going to take them. You're not going to do anything with them. They just like having options. So people would rather keep all of their options open. You know, people ever say that? And some of you like to say that. I like to keep all my options open, even though you never actually take any of these options that you're keeping open. People want to keep all their options open and not cut themselves off from anything, because it just makes them feel more free and open, and they don't like maybe the pressure and the expectation that comes with cutting off all the other options and limiting themselves to one thing that now they got to do. See, because if you limit yourself to just one thing that you have to do and you make a decision now, guess what comes with that? Accountability. What comes with that? Responsibility. And those are both package deals. Those are both part of the package deal that comes with power. Everybody says they want power, but see, nobody wants the stuff that comes with it. Accountability, responsibility, decision making, cutting off every other option, not keeping your options open. And goes back to what I was talking about in yesterday's episode when I told you that I had a friend who texted me and said, "Do download this guy's package of all this free stuff. Prepare to have your mind blown." That's what he said to me. Send me a text that said, "Prepare to have your mind blown when you see all this stuff." Oh, why do you need all that stuff? You're not going to do anything with any of that stuff. And I didn't download it. I did not download it, even though I think it's great what the guy's offering. But what the hell am I going to do with all that? I don't need all those options. And the challenge for many of you is you want to keep your options open to have all these things at your disposal, just to have them, even though you ain't going to do shit with them. Even if you wanted to do something with them, you wouldn't know what to do with them, because you don't have the underlying mindset to actually apply these tactical things that you get handed, and these tools that you get handed, these resources that you have at your fingertips. And again, this is great for the marketers. It's great to sell people on this stuff, because people buy into this stuff very easily, but they don't do anything with it, which makes it basically a waste of time. Mental masturbation is what it is. Biggest challenge for people making decisions that they are cutting off all other options. And many people would rather be distracted and have 100 options that they do nothing with than to cut everything off and make a decision on one thing. Most people would rather have 100 options and do nothing than make a decision to do one thing. I like that. I like what I just said there. That's a good one. The world that we live in is designed for distraction and a complete lack of focus. All right, this is what the world wants. The powers that be, all right, they want you to be completely distracted and have no focus whatsoever. Why? Because that makes you a mental slave, and you are easy to control. The more easily controlled you are, the more easily they can move you around and scare you around with anything that they throw at you, simply because you don't think for yourself. When you are not focused and constantly distracted, you are easily controlled. But I already told you. All right, this is the abyss many people fall into. I already told you, if you want to be different from most people in achievement, you got to do the opposite of what most people do. Since most people are constantly distracted, your goal should be to stay consistently focused. Easy as that. If for no other reason than it makes you different than everybody else. That's a good enough reason to be consistently focused, is because most people are consistently distracted and most people are average. So if you don't want to be average, all you got to do is look around at what most people do. I mean, I do that, because that's what all the average people do. There's an easy way for you to decide what to do with your life. The most important part of all this is the mindset. See, what to do is point number 2. Who you are, mindset, is point number 1. Let's recap today's class, which is how to solve unsolvable problems. Again, we talked about solving problems just a couple episodes ago. Today we're talking about solving problems that you think you can't solve. Number 1, solving problems is not about what you do, it's about who you are. Many people get stuck on the doing part, which is step 2 in the creation process, and they ignore step 1, which is who are you being. Number 2, assume the mindset and energy of a person who would and could solve your problem. What's different about them from you? What is their mindset and their energy? All right, again, I talk about this in a bunch of my books, because changing your mindset and the way you see yourself is the key to making changes in activity. And point number 3, assuming that energy of the person who can solve your problem, decide that you will solve the problem and address that solution. Start doing things right now. Remember that decisions are always followed by actions. Our decisions are not followed by words, they're followed by actions. If you made a real decision, there's an action that immediately follows it. If you call yourself making a decision, but there's no action, then you didn't make a decision. You had a thought, a hope, a wish, a suggestion. And it's fine to do those things too, but a real decision, which means cutting off every other option, means you immediately taking action and you are committing to whatever the thing is that you're going to be doing. And many people don't do this because, again, people are constantly distracted and lacking focus. And the reason why many people are easily controlled is the reason why many people are not successful because they can't focus on any one thing. Human brain can only focus on one thing at a time. So if you're trying to focus on 100, you're failing. And that's a microcosm of everything else that's happening in your life. All that said, text me. So you're in my text community for free. You get my daily motivation. You get my Monday motivation. Excuse me. My number is 305-384-6894. Down below in the description. And Work on Your Game University. That's a place where I do all my coaching. You want to work with me directly. You want to have me as a person who you can come to consistently and share. Here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm working on. Here's where I'm stuck. How can I look at this differently? What am I not seeing? What am I missing here? I will help you with that. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all